time and place, as the university is perfectly positioned to welcome an esports program like none other. Wittenberg's impressive athletics tradition and Tiger Up spirit, mixed with a strong commitment to student success, will allow for a program that competes at the highest level while also caring deeply for each player, both personally and professionally. Esports at Wittenberg will not only be about gaming, but will also be about changing the game. Together, we will build a supportive, dynamic community as we bring our own distinct light to the global phenomenon of esports right here in Springfield, Ohio. It's time to Tiger Up. Let's go.
Every day, we find ourselves on a path full of decisions.
It's me.
Sometimes small and sometimes big. Sometimes alone and sometimes together. At McAfee, everything we do is done with your comfort, health, and convenience in mind. She always wanted the best for you, and now you can rest knowing you've provided the best for her. Breathe easy. Choose McAfee.
Happy opening day, everybody. Jackson Lightcap alongside Matthew Pennington as we welcome you to the TKBS Sports Network and Sports Now. 2 full hours coming up on this show. We're live until 6. We got a lot to get into, but obviously it is Reds opening day, and the Reds' first pitch will be thrown out here in about 8 minutes. The 2024 Cincinnati Reds season is just about underway. With that being said, yes, we have a lot to touch base on this show, but we're going to spend a lot of time talking about the Cincinnati Reds and Major League Baseball in general because it's opening day. We're going to talk about that for about the first hour of the show. Advanced NBA scout David Marshall is going to be joining us at 5 o'clock. That way we can sit and talk to him about some what's going on in the NBA. It's been a while since we've talked about the NBA, and Draymond Green, 2 technical fouls within a 4-minute span last night, was ejected. What does that mean for the Golden State Warriors moving forward? Because remember, Draymond Green was already suspended indefinitely at one point earlier this season. So we're talking about that moving forward. And then, of course, NCAA, the Sweet 16 is coming up today as well, starting later tonight. So we're talking about that. But Matt, the headline of the show, Reds baseball is officially back.
Yeah, we've got a few minutes until first pitch should be going out. It says it's supposed to start at 4:10, but we already know with TV and all that kind of stuff, it's probably going to start around 4:15 if I had to take a guess, but it's counting down the minutes at this point until we have opening day starting for Cincinnati. Obviously, the season has already kicked off. The Orioles are already ahead of the Angels, 5-1 right now in the bottom of the second. Day was supposed to start off with Mets hosting the Brewers, but weather kind of caused that to, not happen today because baseball with rain equals bad times. But at the end of the day, it's opening day. It's if you're a baseball fan like myself and Jackson, it is one of the happiest days of the year because the baseball season's starting up.
Yeah, the baseball season's starting up, and Matt, to be honest, I feel like a kid on Christmas morning. Anybody who follows this show and anybody who watches this show will know that Matt and I were baseball guys. We love to talk NBA. We love to talk college sports. We love to talk NFL. But when it comes to talking Major League Baseball, this show just goes so much more quicker because we love talking major. We just love talking baseball in general. But we are about 6 minutes away from the first pitch being thrown out in Cincinnati with Frankie Montas on the mound. It is a packed house, 43,000 in attendance. Matt, the parade was earlier today. And again, nobody does opening day like the city of Cincinnati. I've seen some pictures circling out around on Twitter, and it is making me very, very upset that I did not use a vacation day and take off this show with one of my vacation days to be down there on the banks of the Ohio River right now. It looks incredible. The atmosphere is going to be incredible. And Matt, we are just once again moments away from 2024 Cincinnati Reds baseball.
And yeah, like you said, you take a look at the atmosphere that goes around opening day down in Cincinnati. It's safe to say leading up to opening day, I'm not to say because I haven't been around to every single ballpark on opening day to experience what it's like on game day for game number 1 of the season for opening day, but Cincinnati, I'm not saying they do it better than everybody else, but when it comes down to a full-blown parade, the streets are lined left to right with fans ready to watch baseball, ready to get the season underway, and are excited to see Reds baseball. It's tough to find it anywhere else. With the excitement that goes on in Cincinnati, the hype going into the opening day, the fact that not too long ago, we saw every single first game of the day take place in Cincinnati. It's safe to say the atmosphere in Cincinnati for opening day is one of the best experiences you could probably go to. And the funniest part is I'm watching a video of a news report of the parade, and someone, as a Reds fan, was tearing up a Cubs sign. So that was pretty funny to see. But at the end of the day, the atmosphere, the excitement, the energy that goes on during the parade and during opening day in Cincinnati, it's tough to find it anywhere else. And to me, I'm not saying that we have to see the first game go back to Cincinnati, but if we do end up seeing the MLB try to choose one place and one site to have opening day start every single year, why not take it back to Cincy? Because it is such a good environment. It's such a good atmosphere. And the fans, they put out for the parade. They put out for opening day in Cincinnati. And like I said, it's going to be tough to find that environment and that atmosphere anywhere else on opening day.
Matt, let's take a look real quick. We are a couple minutes away from first pitch being thrown out, as we mentioned before. Let's take a look and let's kind of analyze, because a couple of hours ago, the Cincinnati Reds, they posted their first lineup card of the season. And to say it's exciting is an understatement, but it's also a little bit interesting. And Matt, this is something we talked about our predictions for the opening day lineup yesterday, and the core players that we got correctly. But the order that we put them in, a lot different from what the lineup card shows today. Now, we're going to go into the lineup card, and I'm going to go ahead and say, yes, I just said it's interesting, but at the same time, interesting doesn't mean bad. And I really do like this lineup card that Cincinnati posted for a couple of reasons, and we're getting to that here in just a couple of seconds. But leading off second base will be Jonathan India. Will Benson will play center field, batting second. Christian Encarnacion Strand, the first baseman, bats third. Jameer Candelario will bat fourth at third base. Jake Fraley bats fifth at right field. Ellie De La Cruz, the shortstop, will bat sixth. Spencer Steer will bat seventh in left field. Nick Martini, the designated hitter, will bat eighth, and Tyler Stevenson behind the dish will bat ninth. Matt, obviously Frankie Montas on the mound. I like this lineup, and I know that it's a very interesting lineup, and it's a lineup that I don't think anybody expected for Cincinnati to roll out with on opening day, at least this order. I think everybody kind of knew the players that they were going to go out with, but this order that they're necessarily in. Obviously, Spencer Steer was projected to possibly be third in the lineup. Ellie De La Cruz batting sixth, maybe a little bit lower than what a lot of people may have saw, but I will go ahead and say this. There are two reasons why I like this lineup. Having Ellie De La Cruz bat sixth and having a Spencer Steer bat seventh, I like that, because when you talk about getting later in the games, when games are getting closer, you have to worry. It's a matchup game. You have to worry about intentional walks. So when you have Jameer Candelario batting fourth and you have a free base open, the Nationals are not necessarily going to walk Candelario, because guess who's on deck? You have Jake Fraley. Well, then you go down the lineup. You can't necessarily walk Jake Fraley, because in the on-deck circle, you have Ellie De La Cruz. Well, you can't necessarily walk Ellie De La Cruz, because in the on-deck circle, you have Spencer Steer. This is a lineup that protects your lineup. And this is a lineup that will play dividends later on in the game. And we're going to see it when there's runners on second and third, and the Nationals would like to put a player from the Cincinnati Reds on base to get a double play in order or force at home plate, especially in the middle of the order to the lower half of the order. It's certainly hard to do so, because you have Jake Fraley, Ellie De La Cruz, Spencer Steer, three of the best Reds hitters at the bottom of that order. That's one of the reasons why I like it. It protects your batters. It protects your offense. Another reason why I like it is you look at 2, 3, 4 in this lineup. Will Benson, Christian Encarnacion Strand, Jameer Candelario. Those three players had the hottest bets at the end of spring training. So yes, although we maybe wanted to see Ellie De La Cruz at the top of the order, maybe we wanted to see Spencer Steer towards the top of the order, at the end of spring training, Encarnacion Strand, Jameer Candelario, they were your two best hitters. They were the two hottest hitters at the plate the final week of spring training. So why not have them carry that over? And because they are your hottest hitters, why don't you want them in the middle of the order? This lineup that the Reds posted, yes, I'll admit it's interesting, but it's not interesting in a bad way. This lineup that the Reds posted, I think, is a terrific lineup, and I think it fits them well for opening day.
And yeah, the one thing that I like seeing from this lineup is the amount of power that the Reds have, and it's somewhat spread out. It's not completely spread out, but, I mean, when you've got Tyler Stevenson batting ninth, and you know what Stevenson's capable of, if he starts getting a hot hand batting, or if he ends up starting to pick up the pace when it comes to him hitting the ball, Tyler Stevenson batting ninth in the lineup, I mean, like you said, you just take a look. Fraley, De La Cruz, Steer, all back-to-back. So to me, like you said, if there's a situation second or third time through the lineup where there's a runner on second, say it's Candelario on second base, he ends up getting a double to start off an inning, and maybe the Nationals want to walk the next batter to maybe force a double play, try to get it to 2 outs. Good luck walking Fraley, because you're going to have Ellie De La Cruz immediately after. Or if we see Fraley get a double, good luck walking Ellie, because you've got Spencer Steer following up right after. And then you've got Martini and Stevenson following 8th and 9th in the order. Taking a look at this team, taking a look at this lineup for this game, I like Jonathan India leading off. I like Will Benson in second. I'm pretty much going to say I like the way this lineup is laid out from top to bottom. Jonathan India, talking about it's not that he doesn't have much confidence, but with the amount of times that we saw Reds fans and we saw people trying to push Jonathan India out of Cincinnati, what would be the best way to start off the season? First at bat, Jonathan India gets a hit. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but that would be a great way to start off the game. And then you've got Benson, like you said, pretty good end to spring training. CES, we know what he's capable of. Candelario, we know what he's capable of. Fraley, De La Cruz, Steer, all insane when it comes to the power that they have. Martini, we saw what he was able to do during spring training. Stevenson, if he's hitting well, we know what Stevenson can do. He can send it out of the park any given at bat. So to me, I'm taking a look at this Cincinnati lineup, and I'm excited for what the Reds have going for them on opening day.
Yeah, and the Reds, this lineup that they posted, I think is one of the best lineups that they have. Consider the circumstances. Obviously, Matt McClain is starting the season on IL. TJ Friedel doing the exact same thing. And Matt, actually, that's going to be the next 15 minutes. We talked the Reds. They made their final roster moves yesterday. We did announce the opening day roster yesterday on the show, but it is official with the players going on to the IL. So we're going to talk about that here coming up in the next 15 minutes. By the way, leave your thoughts on the Reds games in the comments. We're going to be active in the comments, and in fact, we already have a couple of comments from Timothy Powell. Timothy Powell says play ball, and that is in fact indeed, and how great is that you get to play, that it is officially time for the 2024 Cincinnati Reds. But again, when you look at this lineup card, is it interesting? Yes, I think it is, but the way that David Bell will protect his batters later on in the game, the way that you're spreading out the power, and not only that, but you're keeping your hottest hitters from spring training at the top of the order, carrying over into the regular season. Now, is this the same lineup that we're going to see here on September 1st? No, not necessarily. And if it is, then that means the Reds are probably a 30-loss team heading into September or something along those lines. But when you look at opening day, it's so hard to get your lineup because you're going off of base what you saw in the spring, what you saw at the end of last year, and matchups. So it's going to take a little while for the Reds to get their lineup officially ironed out. But nonetheless, opening day lineup, I don't think you could have asked for a better lineup.
And yeah, that's the other thing with this team, like we talked about. This isn't going to be the same exact lineup you're going to see every single day, especially with Bell managing the team. So you take a look at, obviously, India batting first. If there's any consistency that I might see, or that we might see, if India continues to hit at the level we have seen him hit at times, it's very possible whatever game he plays, he's going to be starting, and he's going to be number one in the lineup in the batting order. Then that's when it starts getting to, are we maybe going to see Ellie De La Cruz jump up a few spots? Are we going to see him maybe climb up to number 2 like we saw him in the last few games during spring training? Are we going to see him sit around 6th? interesting to say the least, because at the end of the day, it's David Bell managing this team. It's pretty much feel like every single time you're going to end up having a game, it's not going to be the same roster every single time you see this team take the field. So for me, I think it's near impossible to say this is going to be the exact same lineup we're going to see throughout the remainder of this week and throughout the entire series against the Nationals. Speaking of 1, 2, 3 first inning, Reds are now going into the bottom of the first. You love hearing that. But taking a look at this team, taking a look at this lineup, taking a look at everybody that's playing right now and is going to be at bat here in probably a minute or two, I don't think we're going to see the same line. We might not even see the same 1 through 9 lineup tomorrow at the end of the day, because, like I said, it's David Bell managing this team. He's not even the pitching coach. He's not even pitching, but he throws curveballs every single day, it feels like. So you never know what you're going to get with Cincinnati. That's why there were so many questions and why we were predicting who we thought was going to be in the starting lineup today, because we had absolutely no idea, because it's David Bell managing this team. But like I said, I'm liking what I'm seeing when you take a look at this starting nine, at this batting order for the Cincinnati Reds. I like the way it was structured. I like how it's set up, because like you said, we've got a lot of power on this Reds team, and putting it in, obviously you want to kind of disperse it a little bit. You don't want it to be back to back to back, but also when you start wearing down a pitcher, having that power back to back to back is going to force Washington's hand as the game goes on.
So yes, I'm looking at my phone. I know I'm not supposed to be.
As I was talking, dude, I was looking at my phone to keep an eye on
I'm trying
the
to
game.
find it. I'm trying to do some technical things where I'm trying to get the game on my phone up on the TV. But nonetheless, it is time for a break. When we return, more Reds baseball talk coming up next here on Sports Now.
Every day, we find ourselves on a path full of decisions.
It's me.
Sometimes small and sometimes big. Sometimes alone and sometimes together. At McAfee, everything we do is done with your comfort, health, and convenience in mind. She always wanted the best for you, and now you can rest knowing you've provided the best for her. Breathe easy. Choose McAfee.
We love serving families our real family recipes, made fresh with quality ingredients. And we love helping families find ways to stretch a buck. You see, we've always been about value, with coupons and money-saving offers, like the free pizzas you get with our buddy cards, making it easier for families to share a meal and a laugh. With flavors so good, the only thing left are the crumbs. And the memories. La Rosa's, the real family pizzeria.
Whenever you're feeling good and hungry, it's Skyline time. Gather together with friends and family, it's Skyline time.
Being Friday, everyone's looking forward to the weekend. Skyline's a good way to kind of kick that off.
You smell the chili, you hear the crowd, and they're having a good time. Skyline Mondays and Tuesdays and Wednesdays definitely happen as well.
We love it every time we go.
We love serving families our real family recipes, made fresh with quality ingredients. And we love helping families find ways to stretch a buck. You see, we've always been about value, with coupons and money-saving offers, like the free pizzas you get with our buddy cards, making it easier for families to share a meal and a laugh. With flavors so good, the only thing left are the crumbs. And the memories. La Rosa's, the real family pizzeria.
I'm thrilled to be at Wittenberg at this time and place, as the university is perfectly positioned to welcome an esports program like none other. Wittenberg's impressive athletics tradition and Tiger Up spirit, mixed with a strong commitment to student success, will allow for a program that competes at the highest level while also caring deeply for each player, both personally and professionally. Esports at Wittenberg will not only be about gaming, but will also be about changing the game. Together, we will build a supportive, dynamic community as we bring our own distinct light to the global phenomenon of esports right here in Springfield, Ohio. It's time to tiger up. Let's go.
Every day, we find ourselves on a path full of decisions. It's me. Sometimes small and sometimes big. Sometimes alone and sometimes together. At McAfee, everything we do is done with your comfort, health, and convenience in mind. She always wanted the best for you, and now you can rest knowing you've provided the best for her. Breathe easy. Choose McAfee.
Just another reminder, we are live in the chat. We are engaging with the comments. Reds baseball is officially back. We're in the bottom of the first. Leave your thoughts on the Reds game in the comments. We're going to take a look at them. We're going to be talking about Major League Baseball for the first hour or so of this show, and then we have some other things we need to get to coming up here in hour number 2. But Jackson Lightcap alongside Matthew Pennington, thanks for joining us once more here on the TKDS Sports Network. Matt, the Reds, they officially made some roster moves yesterday, and it was their last roster moves that they made yesterday. They posted it right after our show was done, and they placed, TJ Friedel already started out the season on the 10-day IL. He will remain there. Remember, he's not expected to be back until early to mid-May. They placed on the 15-day injured list. This was also back on 325. Ian Gabot, Nick Lodolo, Sam Mull, Brandon Williamson, and Alex Young. A lot of big-name arms on that rotation. And they placed infielder Matt McLain on the 10-day IL. Now, Matt McLain on Tuesday had surgery. It was successful. The Reds are hopeful to get him back at some point this season. So don't look at that 10-day IL and think that he's going to be back here in just a couple of weeks. This is just the move that the Reds had to make effectively prior to opening day, but they don't want to place him on anything farther until they know the full exact strain of this surgery and the exact timeline on when they expect him to be back on the field.
And yeah, like I said yesterday, I'm hoping that it was a little bit of miswording on the Reds' part, saying that hopefully we will have him back at some point this season. In the post they made about Matt McLain's injury, I'm hoping that it's not a potential not going to see him at all throughout the remainder of the season kind of deal, because if I'm not mistaken, wasn't McLain 100 in the top 100 players in the MLB last year? Wasn't he 100? Exactly on 100?
I think it was 99. De La Cruz was 100.
I knew Ellie and McLain were 100 and 99. I wasn't exactly sure who was where, but at the end of the day, you've got a player who came into the season late last year and ended up being a top 100 player in all of Major League Baseball a season ago. And now there's a question and there's a possibility and there's thoughts of, is he even going to play at all during this season? Like you said, the fact that he's on the 10-day IL, that's more of a move the Reds had to make because, like you said, don't just expect McLain 2 weeks from now to 3 weeks from now to be 110% ready to go, because it was just a move the Reds had to make because, like you said, at the end of the day, with what was said about Matt McLain's injury, it sounds like it's more likely to be a longer-term deal than he's out for a month, expect him to be back maybe around the same time Friedel is ready to come back. So, to me, like I said, it's obviously a huge hit for Cincinnati. But at the end of the day as well, we take a look at who we've got when it comes to depth, when it comes to players that can step up. We've got Jonathan India, obviously leading off. He got on base, ended up walking, but at the end of the day, having players that, to me, are able to fill the shoes of a player like Matt McLain, obviously, Jonathan India, I don't think has nearly as much power as Matt McLain does, but at the end of the day, he's still got that presence at the plate, and he's still got that ability at the plate to go yard or to just make contact and get the ball in play, maybe get on base. So to me, like I said, we've talked so many times about this Reds, the depth that the Cincinnati Reds have, the types of pieces this team has in case we have a scenario like we're having right now where we've got Friedel out and we've got McLean out for an extended period of time, and especially with the pitching rotation, the fact that Williamson and Lodolo obviously aren't ready to go to start off the year, but we've still got enough pitchers that are able to do just enough, or not just enough, but they're able to do just as well being in that starting 5 pitching rotation. So to me, you take a look at those injuries. Obviously, you'd love to have Friedel. You'd love to have him during opening day. You would 110% love to have McLean for opening day. But at the end of the day, with how deep this Reds team is and how good this team is as a whole, it's not to say that it's fine that either of those players are hurt, because we don't want to see anybody getting hurt. But the Reds are able to deal with it a little bit better than some other teams might if they had a similar player or a player of similar stature on their team go down with an injury.
Yeah, and the Reds, we talked about this a little bit yesterday on the show, that this is a team that they have a lot of depth, and this is a team that is thankful that they have a lot of depth, and this is why the Reds can compete, although this is a team that was riddled with injuries during the spring training. So when you look at the Cincinnati Reds and all the depth that they have, they're still producing a very quality starting lineup on opening day, even with the injuries that they have. And unfortunately, Matt McLean, that's a huge loss for the Cincinnati Reds. But again, with him going on the 10-day IL, don't necessarily look too much into that, because he is expected to miss hopefully not too much time, but again, we don't know the exact extent of when he will exactly return to the Cincinnati Reds. So him being as a 10-day IL, the Reds simply just had to get their 26-man roster before the Major League Baseball deadline, and they did just that by doing that. But when we get more updates on Matt McLean, and once we get more updates on whether or not how much time he is going to be missing, then hopefully we'll be able to start making some decisions. Hopefully the Reds will be able to start making some decisions on whether or not he goes on the 60-day IL or just stays on the 10-day for multiple stints.
And yeah, that's another thing with McLean's injury, with it being the Reds coming out and saying we hope he's able to come back at some point during this season. That lets me know as well that the Reds don't even know how long it's going to take for recovery for Matt McLean and how long it's going to take until he's 100% ready to go once again for this team. So to me, also, like I said, seeing the fact that we hope he's able to come back at some point during the season, like I said, that also tells me, basing it off of those words, that the Reds aren't even 100% sure when Matt McLean is going to be ready to go, or they don't know when he's going to be 100% and ready to get back into the lineup and be able to play at the level we saw him play at last season. So to me, hearing the words and hearing it phrased as we hope he's able to return at some point this season lets me know that Cincinnati doesn't even know how long it's going to take for McLean to be able to fully recover from his injury, or fully recover from the surgery and the injury that he sustained. So that's another thing as well with this McLean injury. Obviously, us only being Reds fans, we have no idea how long it's going to take for him to get back and how long it's going to take him to be able to be healthy enough to play on the roster. And I'm not saying that the Reds don't know. They might have just said it and they might know roughly a window, but they don't want to let everybody else around the MLB, they don't want to show their hand on that. I don't think that would be the case with Cincinnati, but you never know. Teams might want to try to do that. But to me, the Reds saying that we hope he comes back at some point during this year tells me that they don't know for sure how long it's going to take him to recover from the injury. So, like I said, I think with McLean's injury and with the surgery, obviously it's going to be only time will tell kind of deal as to when he's able to come back to the team and when he's able to play once again for the Cincinnati Reds. Because, like I said, when it's worded and when it's phrased as hopefully he can come back at some point during the year, that tells me that Cincinnati themselves don't know exactly how long it's going to take. They probably have a rough window of time when it might be the optimal window for McLean if he's going to come back this year to when he's going to come back, or how long the recovery time is going to take from the surgery. They might know a rough window from the surgery, how long it's going to take for him to maybe be able to recover in time before the season ends and maybe come back before the season ends. But like I said, at the end of the day, with the fact that they're saying they hope he comes back this year, That tells me that even Cincinnati doesn't 110% know roughly how long it's going to take for Matt McClain to be ready to go and ready to play once again for Cincinnati.
Time for a break. We'll be back here on Sports Now with more Major League Baseball talk.
Every day, we find ourselves on a path full of decisions.
It's me.
Sometimes small and sometimes big. Sometimes alone and sometimes together. At McAfee, everything we do is done with your comfort, health, and convenience in mind. She always wanted the best for you, and now you can rest knowing you've provided the best for her. Breathe easy. Choose McAfee.
We love serving families our real family recipes, made fresh with quality ingredients. And we love helping families find ways to stretch a buck. You see, we've always been about value, with coupons and money-saving offers, like the free pizzas you get with our buddy cards, making it easier for families to share a meal and a laugh. With flavors so good, the only thing left are the crumbs and the memories. La Rosa's, the real family pizzeria.
Whenever you're feeling good and hungry, it's Skyline time. Gather together with friends and family. It's Skyline time.
Being Friday, everyone's looking forward to the weekend. Skyline's a good way to kind of kick that off.
You smell the chili, you hear the crowd, and they're having a good time. Skyline Mondays and Tuesdays and Wednesdays definitely happen as well.
We love it every time we go.
I'm thrilled to be at Wittenberg at this time and place, as the university is perfectly positioned to welcome an esports program like none other. Wittenberg's impressive athletics tradition and Tiger Up spirit, mixed with a strong commitment to student success, will allow for a program that competes at the highest level while also caring deeply for each player, both personally and professionally. Esports at Wittenberg will not only be about gaming, but will also be about changing the game. Together, we will build a supportive, dynamic community as we bring our own distinct light to the global phenomenon of esports right here in Springfield, Ohio. It's time to Tiger Up. Let's go.
Every day, we find ourselves on a path full of decisions.
It's me.
Sometimes small and sometimes big. Sometimes alone and sometimes together. At McAfee, everything we do is done with your comfort, health, and convenience in mind. She always wanted the best for you, and now you can rest knowing you've provided the best for her. Breathe easy. Choose McAfee.
I'm thrilled to be at Wittenberg at this time and place, as the university is perfectly positioned to welcome an esports program like none other. Wittenberg's impressive athletics tradition and Tiger Up spirit, mixed with a strong commitment to student success, will allow for a program that competes at the highest level while also caring deeply for each player, both personally and professionally. Esports at Wittenberg will not only be about gaming, but will also be about changing the game. Together, we will build a supportive, dynamic community as we bring our own distinct light to the global phenomenon of esports right here in Springfield, Ohio. It's time to Tiger Up. Let's go.
We welcome you back here to the TKDS Sports Network. Jackson Lightcap alongside Matthew Pennington. We are trying to keep up with the game as much as possible, but I'm still trying to work to get it on the TV.
Fraley just got on first, so there's your update. Bottom of the second, no outs, 0-0 score. Fraley, the leadoff, just got on first after an infield hit to short.
Nonetheless, we welcome you back here to the TKDS Sports Network and Sports Now. The Cincinnati Reds opening day has officially started. They are in the bottom of the second, and Matt, just as you mentioned, leadoff man Jake Fraley has found his way to first base. So we're keeping you all updated here on this show, and also not to mention the fact, please make sure to visit our comment section. Drop any comments, leave your analysis on the game. Busy show forthcoming, but we welcome you back here to the TKDS Sports Network and Sports Now. Matt, Cincinnati, very lucky to have a guy such as Elly De La Cruz. Elly De La Cruz is up to bat right now, but did you see his press conference yesterday? And it was his first press conference that he has ever spoken full English without a translator. And I don't necessarily know if he saw what happened to Shohei Ohtani and he's like, no, I don't want a translator. No, just kidding. No, but the reason why Elly De La Cruz, and he said this in the press conference yesterday, he said it was so important to him to learn English. That way he can interact with the fans, and not just interact with the fans, but it means a lot to him. And because he knows it means a lot to the fans for him being able to interact with them. That's the type of player that Cincinnati loves to have on his team. Not only to mention he's a superstar, and he's been a superstar through his minor league career and already during his little Major League Baseball sample size, but he has potential that is just through the roof. And now with him saying that, he means it's just a great guy to have in the locker room. And not to mention a great guy to have in the city of Cincinnati.
And yeah, to me, I liked Elly De La Cruz way before he even made the Major League roster, watching him at Dayton Dragons games. And now to know that he was able to, go ahead and learn English and do a full interview, and the reasoning behind it is so he can have fun and amazing interactions with fans. I mean, what's there not to like about that? At the end of the day, what's there not to like? You mentioned, and I've talked about it multiple times, the atmosphere and the energy in Cincinnati. It's obvious the fans feed a lot off of it, because you take a look at how many fans we started seeing fill Great American Ballpark last year once this team started showing some energy and showing some life to the team. Even when you saw Elly De La Cruz steal home last year, you had Brewers fans chanting Elly when that happened. So to me, you take a look at the fact that Elly De La Cruz, he decides to try to learn the English language as best he can, to have amazing interactions with the fans and have amazing interactions with the crowd. Like I said, what's there not to like about it? That's awesome. At the end of the day, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's awesome. In Cincinnati, they've been blessed to have great athletes and great faces of the franchise. Obviously, Joey Votto, ever since he came into the major leagues and has been there since 2007, unfortunately departed away from Cincinnati, now a member of the Toronto Blue Jays this season. But this guy, he was the face of the franchise for so long, and he was a very humble guy, and the city of Cincinnati loved him. And now we're starting to see the same thing with Elly De La Cruz. And Elly De La Cruz is just a 22-year-old kid, and he has already taken the entire city by storm. He's already taken the sport by storm. He's already taken the city by storm, and he has been absolutely terrific and nothing but a humble being for the Cincinnati Reds. And for him taking time, I mean, that's got to be hard. That's got to be significantly hard. Leaving your home country, moving to another country to pursue baseball. You don't know anything about the English language, but he was working so hard on it on top of his baseball skills during the offseason, so that he could come back to Cincinnati and come back to the States and learn English to help communicate with his locker room, to help communicate better on the field as well. And not only that, but also to be able to communicate with the fans and the city of Cincinnati, because he wants to do that. He didn't have to do that. He wants to do that. And that's a special locker room leader. That's a special kid that Cincinnati has, talent-wise, with what he brings to the table, personality-wise. Cincinnati, again, as I said it before, lucky to have him in the locker room, but certainly lucky to have him on the field as well.
And like I said, what's there not to like about Elly De La Cruz going out of his own way to learn the English language, to be able to interact with, like you said, not only the locker room, not only his teammates, but to be able to interact and have fun, amazing interactions with fans. That's, like I said, the fact that he went out of his own way to do it. It's not easy to learn another language. it's not easy to, like you said, not be from the United States, try to learn the language while also trying your best to. It's not to say that Ellie De La Cruz wants, well, I wouldn't say he doesn't want it, but at the end of the day, he's a superstar in the MLB. To keep that image up and to keep that going, it takes a lot to do it. And then he goes out and on his own will, under his own accord, goes out to try to learn the English language, to have some fun and cool experiences for and with the fans. And like you said, it's not only just the fans, but it's also going to help out when it comes to the energy in the energy for the team, energy in the dugout, energy as the games go on. Because, like I said, we've already talked about how fun it seems to be playing in Cincinnati right now, how it seems like some players are wanting to go to Cincinnati to play because of the atmosphere, because of how good the team is, and because of how fun it seems to be to play in Cincinnati right now. So to me, what's the best way, or what's a great way to increase the atmosphere, make it a little more fun? Have the superstar of the team that doesn't really know English that well go out of his own way to learn the English language and make things a little bit more fun. It's not to say if he didn't learn English, it still wouldn't be fun, but now some jokes that you might hear Fraley maybe try to, shoot towards Ellie De La Cruz. De La Cruz is going to come back and start calling him a Viking. You never, stuff like that's going to happen. Fun stuff like that's going to happen. So to me, like I said, what's there not to like about it? It's just going to create a fun atmosphere. It's going to be a lot of fun for the players of Cincinnati. It's obviously going to be fun for Ellie De La Cruz because, like he said, it's to get fun experiences with fans. It's not heighten their experiences because they're watching Cincinnati baseball. It's one of the best feelings in the world to go to a Cincinnati Reds game, if you ask me. But to be able to have those kind of interactions with a player like Ellie De La Cruz, like I said, there's nothing else to like about it. Also, Martini, 3-run homer, Reds up 3-0.
Nick Martini is the first one to hit a home run for the Cincinnati Reds, and they now lead 3-0. And Matt, we talked about this yesterday prepping this game, and changing focus away from Ellie De La Cruz, the Cincinnati Reds, they need to get the offense going today. And Nick Martini being able to do that is certainly that was an incredible blast, and that was a tremendous way to start Nick Martini's season. Nick Martini, remember, back in spring training, was battling Mike Ford for that utility slot, designated hitter slot, and it seemed like Mike Ford was beating him out. But they ended up going with Nick Martini, especially from what they saw with him last season with the Cincinnati Reds. Nick Martini makes the spot, makes the opening day roster, makes the opening day starting lineup, and then delivers a 3-run bomb in his first AB of the season. Nick Martini, the first Red to hit a home run of the 2024 season, and the Reds, they're up 3-0 now in the bottom of the second.
405 on the distance as well. 405 feet on that homer to right center. That's a nuke hit. Well, I say nuke hit. It could have been a lot shorter than that. Still made it out at Great American Ballpark, but that's just because it's Great American Ballpark. But like you said, what a way to start off the year already. And the way that sequence played out, obviously we got Fraley on first. Ellie De La Cruz struck out, but on that swing, Fraley ended up stealing second. Steer got a single, then Martini homered. Great start to the season for the Reds, and there's only one out in the inning, too. And we've got Stevenson up right now, so you never know. We might get a few more runs in this inning. Fingers crossed that we end up seeing that.
Timothy Powell just said, go Red Legs. Go Red Legs indeed. The Reds lead right now 3-0. We'll be back here on the TKDS Sports Network. We'll talk a little bit more about a broader sense of Major League Baseball when we return.
Every day, we find ourselves on a path full of decisions.
It's me.
Sometimes small and sometimes big. Sometimes alone and sometimes together. At McAfee, everything we do is done with your comfort, health, and convenience in mind. She always wanted the best for you, and now you can rest knowing you've provided the best for her. Breathe easy. Choose McAfee.
We love serving families our real family recipes, made fresh with quality ingredients. And we love helping families find ways to stretch a buck. You see, we've always been about value. with coupons and money-saving offers, like the free pizzas you get with our buddy cards, making it easier for families to share a meal and a laugh. With flavors so good, the only thing left are the crumbs. And the memories. La Rosa's, the real family pizzeria.
Whenever you're feeling good and hungry, it's Skyline time. Gather together with friends and family. It's Skyline time.
Being Friday, everyone's looking forward to the weekend. Skyline's a good way to kind of kick that off.
You smell the chili, you hear the crowd, and they're having a good time. Skyline Mondays and Tuesdays and Wednesdays definitely happen as well.
We love it every time we go.
I'm thrilled to be at Wittenberg at this time and place, as the university is perfectly positioned to welcome an esports program like none other. Wittenberg's impressive athletics tradition and tiger-up spirit, mixed with a strong commitment to student success, will allow for a program that competes at the highest level while also caring deeply for each player, both personally and professionally. Esports at Wittenberg will not only be about gaming, but will also be about changing the game. Together, we will build a supportive, dynamic community as we bring our own distinct light to the global phenomenon of esports right here in Springfield, Ohio. It's time to tiger up. Let's go.
Every day, we find ourselves on a path full of decisions.
It's me.
Sometimes small and sometimes big. Sometimes alone and sometimes together. At McAfee, everything we do is done with your comfort, health, and convenience in mind. She always wanted the best for you, and now you can rest knowing you've provided the best for her. Breathe easy. Choose McAfee.
We welcome you back here to the TKDS Sports Network. Jackson Lightcap alongside Matthew Pennington. Let's now take a little bit of a broad horizon. It's opening day for the Cincinnati Reds. We're going to keep updates on that. Leave your thoughts of the Reds games in the comments as well. We're going to be replying to them as well. Right now, the Reds currently lead 3-0. I believe the game's still in the bottom of the second as well. But Matt, let's now take a broader look and let's start looking at Major League Baseball. First couple games of the day. It was supposed to be the Brewers and the Mets. That game has been postponed. The Phillies and the Braves have been postponed as well. There's some bad weather going through the Northeast. And so both those games have been postponed. So now the Angels and the Orioles were the first game to officially start the 2000 and, well, not the first game because the Padres and the Dodgers, they played last week. But the first main game is, I guess, what I'm trying to say. The first game of the day was the Angels and the Orioles. Right now, the Orioles, they lead 7-1 over the Angels. But I will go ahead and say this. The first home run of the 2024 season, not from the Cincinnati Reds, but overall in Major League Baseball, belongs to Mike Trout. Matt, I think that's certainly fitting. Mike Trout getting the first home run of the year, especially with the dominant career that he's had. He's no doubt going to be a future Hall of Famer, and he is one of the best players, if not the best generational player that we've seen over the last decade.
Yeah, hands down, one of the best players that is ever going to play the game at the position in the outfield that he plays. I mean, you take a look at what he's been able to do hitting-wise, the talent he's had, the amount of years he has been in contention for. We talked about McClain and Ellie De La Cruz making it inside the top 100 for the top 100 players in the MLB last year. How many times have we seen Mike Trout towards the top 5 or the top 10 in those lists? So to have the very first home run of the season to be hit by Mike Trout, I'm also going to make a correction. Steer, he on his single, Fraley scored on that single, so it was only a 2-run homer for Martini, so I wanted to clear that up. It was a little bit weird the way ESPN put it on their website, but I don't care. It's 3-0 lead for the Reds. I'm happy.
Yeah.
So,
and I want to say I followed that up because I was trusting you, Matt, and now you made me sound like a fool as well. I'm still currently trying to get I'm still trying to find a way to get this game.
Hey, I just read it wrong, but now I cleared it up. Steers got an RBI, and then Martini hit that home run. But yeah, taking a look at that Orioles-Angels game, it's just unfortunate for the Angels that the only run that they have is that Mike Trout home run because they're down 7-1 right now in that game. But Yeah, like you said, to have Mike Trout be the one to hit the first home run of the season, it's just super fitting for the type of career he's had, the type of player he is, the success he's had in the MLB. Not many other players I would have been, it's pretty perfect to have them hit the first home run of the season. Maybe if the Braves had played game number 1, maybe we would have seen Ronald Acuna Jr. hit the first home run of the season, and maybe that home run I might have also had in my mind of, maybe that was another player that, kind of deserves to hit the first home run of the year. But hearing that Mike Trout hit the first home run of the season, first of all, not too surprising at the end of the day. And 2, like you said, there's not many other players that, in my mind, I would have, if it was a Reds player that hit the first home run, I would have been ecstatic because, Cincinnati Reds player. But outside of the Reds, Mike Trout's definitely one of those players that see him hit the first run of the season. Like I said, it is not surprising in the slightest because it's Mike Trout. But 2, it's also not the perfect player you want to see it happen to, but at the end of the day, you can't be upset about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And Mike Trout, I don't think that there's any other player in Major League Baseball that's more deserving to hit the first home run of the year. Going to Mike Trout. I don't think that there's any other player in Major League Baseball that is more deserving than Mike Trout, but unfortunately the Angels are going to Angel, and they're down 7-1 on opening day. Matt, we got about 10 minutes or so before we have to get off of the Major League Baseball topic, and we have to start talking about some NBA basketball with David Marshall. That's going to be calling in the show here around 5 o'clock. Matt, so let's talk about Major League Baseball. And it's so hard to predict because there's 162 games. It's a long season. Matt, let's take a look. Talk about our predictions. All right, let's make some predictions here.
Oh, boy.
Who are your NL favorites to win the divisions? Who are your AL favorites to win the division? Who are your wild card teams? And who are the sleeper teams you're watching out for? And who are the teams that you think are going to be top dogs like everybody expects them to be?
For me, National League, I think for the West, Dodgers. And if it's not the Dodgers, then what are you doing? Because you've spent way too much money this season, this offseason, building the team that you have to end up not winning the West. For me, the East, I feel like it's going to go to the Braves again. I could see the Phillies being competitors in there. I think the Marlins are going to be pretty tough competitors in the East as well. But I think the Braves, I'm not saying that they are 110% without a doubt, hands down, guaranteed to win the East, but they're the team that I feel the most confident about winning the East. And the Central, I have no clue. I couldn't pick a team in the Central to be a team that I'm most confident to win the NL Central, because about a month or so ago, I think is when we did it, when we had our way too early predictions for how the NL Central was going to pan out. I think I had the top 4 teams split by 5 games from first to fourth. So to me, I really don't know who I'm going to pick for the Central, to be completely honest with you. I think that's one of those I need to wait and see kind of deals to see who I'm going to pick or to see who I might want to pick for the winner of the Central. And I know that's not really the way to go about predictions when it comes to early season predictions, but if I had to pick a team, I don't know, man. Who would you pick in the Central? Here, let me ask you that question. Who would you pick in the Central? I've got Braves in the East. I've got Dodgers in the West. Who do you think is going to win the Central? Because I truly think 1, 2, and 3 are going to be split by maybe 3 games.
I'll get to my picks here in a second. It's your turn.
Oh, I'm gonna wait on the NL Central then. The East in the American League, I could see the Orioles, Rays, and Yankees all doing really good. I think the Blue Jays could also do pretty good, but I think Boston can do good too. We saw the American League East just be insanely strong last season. I think I'm gonna have to go Rays or Orioles to win the American League East. The Central, I think I'm going to go Twins again. The Twins they did lose Gray, and that's going to hurt a little bit, but I think with how weak the American League Central is, I think the Twins can do it again. The West, is going to be Rangers or Astros. One of those two is going to win the West this season. I think it's going to be the Astros again. I don't think it's going to come down to the last series of the season. The Astros do what they need to do, and the Rangers slip up, and that's what causes Houston to win the AL West. I think they're going to win it by a few games this year, but flipping it back to the NL Central, I'm just going to pick a random team. Out of the ones that I truly think could win it, I'm going to pick a random team. I'm going to go Chicago. I'm going to go the Cubs to win the NL Central. I think Cubs can win it. I think Reds can win it. I think Brewers can win it. I think Cardinals can win it. I think the Pirates, if they start off well and they continue to play at that level all season, the Pirates can easily win the NL Central. But like I said, I think I'm not going to go from 1 to 4, but I think between Cubs, Reds, Brewers, and Cardinals, I wouldn't be surprised if at the end of the season we see all 4 of those teams from 1st to 4th separated by anywhere between 5 to 7 games. I think it's going to be that close in the NL Central this year.
So, Matt, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to start with the NL West. I think that the Dodgers are going to have that division on lock. I think that the NL West is going to be a very tough division to play in, but I am going to go with the Los Angeles Dodgers. In the East, back and forth, I like the Braves. I think that the Braves are going to pull away with the East. I could see the Phillies going in there and disrupting some things. In the NL Central, it's going to be a tight one. I could see you making a case for 4 different teams to win the NL Central. Right now, I'm going to go with the Chicago Cubs. I think the Chicago Cubs, they got better in the offseason with a lot of their signings that they had. I will go ahead and say this. I think the Reds are going to be a close second. I think that they will be a wild card team over in the American League. That's where things are going to get tricky. In the West, obviously, you have the reigning champs, the Rangers, and then the Astros. I really like what the Rangers bring to the table. They beefed up. They got a lot of depth over the offseason. So give me the Rangers in the AL West. In the AL Central, that's tough. I think that's one of the toughest divisions that you could talk about. The Twins are certainly up there. I like what the Guardians can bring to the table this season. I think the Guardians, with their pitching staff that they have, I think that they're going to have what it takes to win the AL Central. And then in the AL East, that's going to go back and forth. I like the Orioles again, but can they repeat last year's success? Same thing with the Tampa Bay Rays. But I will go ahead and say this. I'm going to go one farther. A sleeper team that I have in the AL East is the Toronto Blue Jays. I think that they've been a sleeper team for the last couple of years with all the talent that they have with, obviously, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Bo Bichette. I think that the Toronto Blue Jays, this could be their season, and I think that they could give the Rays, the Orioles, a run for their money. And also, don't forget about the Yankees either.
And yeah, like I said, the American League East feels like it feels like, I wouldn't say much stronger than the NL Central, but when it comes to how competitive it's going to be, you kind of feel like both are going to be very, very competitive. Also, update on the Reds game. Bottom of the 3rd, Reds up still 3-0. Fraley just doubled. Ellie De La Cruz just got walked. So we've got runners on 1st and 2nd, and I think there's only one out. I think we had Candelario strike out in the first at bat of the inning, but still looking good for Cincinnati right now. Runners at 1st and 2nd, just hopefully, and I hope I don't speak it into existence, hopefully there's not a double play.
Hopefully not.
I probably just spoke it into existence.
Matt, any final words before we have to change subjects? And we're going to be joined with David Marshall on the other side of this call.
Even when we have David on call, I'm going to keep giving updates for the Reds game. You can say we're done talking baseball, but I'm not done talking baseball yet.
All right, sounds good. We're going to be back here on the TKDS Sports Network. On the other side, we're going to be talking about NBA basketball. That's upcoming here on Sports Now.
Every day, we find ourselves on a path full of decisions.
It's me.
Sometimes small and sometimes big. Sometimes alone and sometimes together. At McAfee, everything we do is done with your comfort, health, and convenience in mind. She always wanted the best for you, and now you can rest knowing you've provided the best for her. Breathe easy. Choose McAfee.
We love serving families our real family recipes, made fresh with quality ingredients. And we love helping families find ways to stretch a buck. You see, we've always been about value, with coupons and money-saving offers, like the free pizzas you get with our buddy cards, making it easier for families to share a meal and the laugh. With flavors so good, the only thing left are the crumbs. And the memories. La Rosa's, the real family pizzeria.
Whenever you're feeling good and hungry, it's Skyline time. Gather together with friends and family. It's Skyline time.
Being Friday, everyone's looking forward to the weekend. Skyline's a good way to kind of kick that off.
You smell the chili, you hear the crowd, and they're having a good time. Skyline Mondays and Tuesdays and Wednesdays definitely happen as well.
We love it every time we go.
I'm thrilled to be at Wittenberg at this time and place, as the university is perfectly positioned to welcome an esports program like none other. Wittenberg's impressive athletics tradition and Tiger Up spirit, mixed with a strong commitment to student success, will allow for a program that competes at the highest level while also caring deeply for each player, both personally and professionally. Esports at Wittenberg will not only be about gaming, but will also be about changing the game. Together, we will build a supportive, dynamic community as we bring our own distinct light to the global phenomenon of esports right here in Springfield, Ohio. It's time to Tiger Up. Let's go.
Every day, we find ourselves on a path full of decisions. It's me. Sometimes small and sometimes big. Sometimes alone and sometimes together. At McAfee, everything we do is done with your comfort, health, and convenience in mind. She always wanted the best for you, and now you can rest knowing you've provided the best for her. Breathe easy. Choose McAfee.
Whenever you're feeling good and hungry, it's Skyline time. Gather together with friends and family. It's Skyline time.
Being Friday, everyone's looking forward to the weekend. Skyline's a good way to kind of kick that off.
You smell the chili, you hear the crowd, and they're having a good time. Skyline Mondays and Tuesdays and Wednesdays definitely happen as well.
We love it every time we go.
We welcome you back here to the TKDS Sports Network. Jackson Lightcap alongside Matthew Pennington, and we are joined now with David Marshall. David Marshall, an advanced NBA scout, so we have to kind of change our focus away from the Cincinnati Reds, what we were just talking about for the first hour. But beforehand, we did have some action. Spencer Steer doubled, Jake Fraley scored, and then Nick Martini home run once again. So his first two ABs of the season, Nick Martini, both with home runs, and the Reds are up big currently right now. We're going to keep updates. Make sure to leave your thoughts and opinions on the Reds game in the comment. We're going to be checking them periodically, and we're going to be answering them. But let's shift our focus and let's talk about the National Basketball Association and a lot going on in the NBA, because we haven't talked about it a whole lot. But David, once again, thank you for taking time out of your busy day to join us.
Hey, Jackson. Hey, man. How you guys doing? You know, again, I want to say great job with the interviews with Brian Thornton, the commissioner of the WAC, and assistant coach Steve Wright with Duquesne University. Top-notch interview, fellas. Hats off to you.
Thank you, David. And David, thank you for getting them for us, because you're the main man that we're able to set some stuff up and help us out, get them onto this show. So, David, without you, none of that would have been possible. So thank you for all the work you're putting in behind the scenes as well.
Not a problem. But yeah, a lot going on in the NBA, man. Like, it's picking up. There's only probably eight or nine games left before the season's over with. And typically, you know, the Celtics got the best record. They're not going to, you know, they're going to end up, they probably have to, I think mathematically they have to win 4 more to secure home court advantage throughout. So I'm sure they're going to finish it off pretty quick. And then they'll probably go into load manage and rest the guys a little bit on the back end, which I would too. I mean, it makes sense. But then, the big thing is the playing games. I mean, people, at first people laughed at it, but now the playing games are probably the most important thing. It's the wild card of baseball and football now. I mean, just people pay attention to it. I think a lot has to do with the LeBrons. The Lakers are down there. They've moved themselves up pretty high. I think they're still the playing mode. Yeah, they're still ninth, battling with the Kings. And watch out for the Rockets. Actually, and I'm jumping around a little bit, the Rockets could potentially bump the Warriors out. They've won 10 in a row. And so there's a lot going on these last few games. And the Rockets got a favorable schedule to end too. So that would be pretty crazy.
Yeah, and you talk about the Rockets now. They've come out of nowhere, and we're going to talk about the Golden State Warriors here in just a couple of seconds. But the Warriors, the dynasty that they've had over the last decade, and we all knew that we saw this last season. We saw it at the beginning of this season that the Warriors are not the same team of what they've had over the last decade. But I will go ahead and say this. I don't think anybody expected them to be on the verge of missing the playoffs. And, we're heading into the final couple weeks of the regular season. And with the Rockets now moving in and taking that spot currently, and the Warriors, they have some bigger issues that we're going to be talking about here momentarily. But this late in the season, we are seeing a possibility of Golden State in that dynasty over the last 10 years starting to crumble if they miss the playoffs this season.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest challenge for them is they expect this. There's been a transition. Obviously, Bob Meyer left, their GM. My sources tell me he was integral in just managing all the guys and managing their egos. Understand something. I always say this, and it's not a backhand compliment. They've done a great job, but Bob Meyer did not draft any of those guys. He didn't draft Steph. He didn't draft Clay. He didn't draft Draymond. But he has a great, relationship with them. And if you're a good GM, you come in, you make relationships work. You did a great job. And so that's in flux. So they lost that's a piece that they could always go to. They couldn't go to the coach. And that's how the NBA works a lot. And people, the GM has a strong voice in the league. It used to be the coach, but it's the GM. And Steve Kerr, I think, is okay with that. And then also, Andrew Wiggins is struggling. He hasn't captured that energy level that, and many people felt he should have been the MVP of the championship 2 years ago. Well, he hasn't recaptured that effort and that level of play since. Some people there's some personal issues going on. Whatever. I'm not privy to it. And what I'm privy to, I don't think I need to share it, but at the same time, he hasn't played well. So you've got a lot of things going on. It's been a long season for Steve Kerr because he also coached the summer league. He coached the Olympic team in the summer, who did not do well. So it's the Warriors. It's interesting. It's interesting what's going on with him. That's for sure.
And with the Warriors, Draymond Green last night, 2 technical fouls within a 4-minute time span. And David, that ultimately leads me into my next question, that when you look at the Golden State Warriors, Draymond Green, he's already been suspended indefinitely at one point this season. So now with those 2 technical fouls ejected from last night's game, Steph Curry was pretty emotional at the end of it as well. When you look at what Draymond Green did last night, keep in mind with the suspension issues he's had in the past, with the ejection issues that he's had in the past during his whole career, already suspended indefinitely once earlier on in the season, there's a lot of question marks moving forward now with Draymond Green on the Golden State Warriors.
Yeah, so the main thing with Draymond is right now it puts him at 10, okay? So, and I don't think those, and you can get your technicals rescinded. And to be fair, I don't think you're going to get it rescinded because it's Draymond. I'll be honest with you. Fair or unfair, it is what it is, as kids say. So that's the first thing. His biggest challenge is going to be in the playoffs because those technicals carry over. So you got 10 technicals right now. He's probably going to get 2 more before the season's completed. So now put you at 12. He's probably going to get a couple during the playoffs because that's his edge. He plays with an edge, and that's his edge. That's his thing. He has an edge that he plays with. And it could be a help or a hindrance, just like technology, you know? So he's got to be able to manage that. Sometimes he doesn't. It's going to end up being a situation where it could, hurt the Warriors. But I know some people that tell me all the time the Warriors, we always find a way to figure it out. So they just play the card, they play the hand that dealt them, and then they just figure it out. People step up. So we'll see.
Yeah, and with the Warriors, again, we're talking about them. This is a team that has now been overtaken by the Rockets, and there's only a couple more weeks left in the regular season. And with the uncertainty now of Draymond Green moving forward, the Golden State Warriors simply are just not in a good spot. They're not in a good spot right now to possibly make a playoff push. And even if they were to make that playoff game, you can never count out Golden State. You can never count out Steph Curry. But with what we've seen this season from the Golden State Warriors, you talk about Andrew Wiggins, he's been struggling. Draymond Green, they've had some issues with him staying on the floor. Steph Curry, he's been doing Steph Curry things, but you look at Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, it just seems like they're not the old patented Splash Brothers anymore. They're struggling. There's some miscommunication. There's some frustration between the two. And again, this is not the same Golden State team that we've seen from 10 years ago at the start of the dynasty, and you get the sense that yes, you never want to count them out, but is that window closing? Steve Kerr, you talked about his struggles with the U.S. Olympic team over the summer. The Golden State Warriors are not necessarily in a great position to win right now, and even with an aging roster, I would even go ahead and say that the Warriors, I don't necessarily think that they're going to be in a great position to win maybe in the next couple of years, especially if this decline continues the way it has. And unfortunately for Golden State, that ultimately means that window has closed on the terrific dynasty run that they had over the last decade.
Yeah, I agree. I think what's happening to the Warriors happened to the Pistons years ago. The Pistons drafted did not take Carmelo, did not take Chris Bosh, and they took a young man out of, I think he's Serbia or Yugoslavia, Darko Milic. Well, the Warriors had the number 2 pick a few years ago, and James Wiseman never panned out. Now, to be fair, they was able to trade James Wiseman for Wiggins. Well, at the end of the day, Wiggins hasn't panned out. He gave him one good year and they got a chip with him, though. So, you look at it that way. So, they're old. And you got to remember now, they've won 4 championships. They've been to 6. That's a lot of mileage on those 3 guys. A lot of mileage. So, but the interesting thing is they get the playoffs. Chris Paul will be able to play. So that could help. That could help. So, but the Warriors are the top. They're treading water, guys. They're treading water now. So it's without a doubt, they're treading a lot of water. And the problem too is now they're in the playing game. They're probably going to have to play Denver in their first round matchup, and that's a tough matchup for them. You rather than catch them guys later, however they play Denver later, not because we can't beat them. Let's see if they're a little bit more catch them a little more tired. Things of that nature. So who knows? I know Denver's gonna be tough for them. I know that, guarantee that.
And David, we're going to talk about all the teams to watch out for. Again, final couple weeks of the regular season. The National Basketball Association, the NBA playoffs are going to be starting up here not too long from now. We're not too far out from the playoffs starting. And this is ultimately where you want to be playing your best basketball. This is when you want to start playing your best basketball. And unfortunately, we've seen some teams since the last time we've talked that have certainly slipped up.
Yeah, yes, without a doubt. I mean, if you go back and look, everybody's making a push, to be fair. everybody's trying to make a push. It's all about positioning right now. That's probably an overused term, but it's definitely all about positioning. Whether you want it with, if you're a fifth seed, you want to try to bump up to the third. How many games out, are you? Because you want to. The NBA also is about matchups. So a lot of times, even though your record says is better, it's about the matchup. When you play a 7-series, you start knowing. It's just like baseball. It gets harder when you play a 5 or 7 game series because you know these teams. Okay, we just played them 2 days ago. There's not much that they can change or do that's going to surprise us. Can we adjust what they do now and win a game? And that's always the challenge. And when you look at some of the matchups in the West, for example, like I said, Denver's number 1. I would think a lot of people are hoping the Timberwolves and the Thunder overtake Denver as the number 1 spot, not because they're a better team, because they're a younger team. And playoff experience is vital too. So those are all the little gamesmanship things that are going on in the Western Division. It's all about positioning. Even in the East, same thing. The Celtics are clearly the best team. They're clearly the best team, but the Knicks are trying to get to that second spot just so they can buy themselves some time, in a rhythm to where they're a playoff team to challenge the Celtics. And watch out for the Cavs. We need to get some Cavs games. I'm going to reach out to see if we can go to a few Cavs and Pacers playoffs, Jackson. So hopefully they get matched against each other and we can cover a few of those.
Absolutely.
Because we do get, because we're starting to get we're getting the Cavs games there in Cincinnati again. So that'll be cool.
Absolutely. That's what we love to hear. David, we invite you to stay with us. We're going to talk about the overall Eastern Western Conference and where these teams stand, who's hot and who's not. That's coming up next here on the TKDS Sports Network and Sports Now.
Every day, we find ourselves on a path full of decisions.
It's me.
Sometimes small and sometimes big. Sometimes alone and sometimes together. At McAfee, everything we do is done with your comfort, health, and convenience in mind. She always wanted the best for you, and now you can rest knowing you've provided the best for her. Breathe easy. Choose McAfee.
We love serving families our real family recipes, made fresh with quality ingredients. And we love helping families find ways to stretch a buck. You see, we've always been about value, with coupons and money-saving offers, like the free pizzas you get with our buddy cards, making it easier for families to share a meal and a laugh. With flavors so good, the only thing left are the crumbs and the memories. La Rosa's, the real family pizzeria.
Whenever you're feeling good and hungry, it's Skyline time. Gather together with friends and family. It's Skyline time.
Being Friday, everyone's looking forward to the weekend. Skyline's a good way to kind of kick that off.
You smell the chili, you hear the crowd, and they're having a good time. Skyline Mondays and Tuesdays and Wednesdays definitely happen as well.
We love it every time we go.
I'm thrilled to be at Wittenberg at this time and place, as the university is perfectly positioned to welcome an esports program like none other. Wittenberg's impressive athletics tradition and Tiger-Up spirit, mixed with a strong commitment to student success, will allow for a program that competes at the highest level while also caring deeply for each player, both personally and professionally. Esports at Wittenberg will not only be about gaming, but will also be about changing the game. Together, we will build a supportive, dynamic community as we bring our own distinct light to the global phenomenon of esports right here in Springfield, Ohio. It's time to Tiger Up. Let's go.
Every day, we find ourselves on a path full of decisions.
It's me.
Sometimes small and sometimes big. Sometimes alone and sometimes together. At McAfee, everything we do is done with your comfort, health, and convenience in mind. She always wanted the best for you, and now you can rest knowing you've provided the best for her. breathe easy, choose McAfee.
We love serving families our real family recipes, made fresh with quality ingredients. And we love helping families find ways to stretch a buck. You see, we've always been about value, with coupons and money-saving offers, like the free pizzas you get with our buddy cards, making it easier for families to share a meal and a laugh. With flavors so good, the only thing left are the crumbs. And the memories. La Rosa's, the real family pizzeria.
Jackson Lightcap alongside Matthew Pennington as we welcome you back here to the TKDS Sports Network and Sports Now. We are live until 6. Matt, what's an update on the Cincinnati Reds?
Still up 7-0 right now, and the Reds just had their very first 1-2-3 at the plate. So they had Benson ground out to short, CES grounded out to short, Candelario just struck out swinging. So we're heading to the 5th. Still up 7-0 though.
Heading to the 5th, Cincinnati Reds, they lead 7-0 over the Washington Nationals. Happy opening day. Jackson Lightcap alongside Matthew Pennington. Matt, you are way off camera. Go to the left.
My left or your left?
Or your right, sorry.
Okay.
Sorry. No, nonetheless, we are
up.
joined currently with advanced NBA scout. It's David Marshall. David, once again, thank you for taking time out of your busy day. David, let's talk about some of the conferences. We have the final couple of weeks coming up in the NBA regular season. We just got done talking about the Golden State Warriors and their fiasco. David, let's talk about the Western Conference. We're going to talk about the Eastern Conference here momentarily. You talk about it's very hard to see the Nuggets being knocked off. 51-22, the number 1 seed right now in the Western Conference. Right there is the Timberwolves and the Thunder, only a half game back. But David, once it comes playoff time, who do you think is your favorite if there is any team at all that can now knock out Nikola Jokic and the Denver Nuggets?
You know what? Honestly, the Timberwolves, because they're specifically designed to guard Jokic. That's why they went with Rudy Gobert. That's why they went with Karl Anthony. And I think Karl Anthony Towns is done for the year. Don't quote me on it, but I think he's done. But they also got Nazir Reed, and they also brought in another big. And if you go back during the bubble championship for the Lakers, Frank Wright, he's the coach at the Suns, did this. And Frank Vogel, he actually he had Dwight Howard, Anthony Davis, and there's one more big, JaMale McGee. Those 3 rotated on Jokic. And they were physical with him. They frustrated him. And they had up to 16 fouls, basically. And they used him. They were physical with him. Borderline, there were some blurred lines, but they made it physical with him. And I think the Timberwolves took note to that. Like, we have to deal with this young man. He's going to be a problem in the playoffs. So I want big bodies on big bodies. And I think that's the main thing. Now, I've had scouts tell me, how would you deal with Jokic? They said, well, we always look at how to stop him. Make him defend the pick and roll every time. Every time. Run a pick and roll action where he's got to come out on the floor and defend it. Every single time. And then you get him in foul trouble. Or make it. That's the only way. He said, I want to see that first. And then the other thing is run the floor on him. Make him tire him out. So those are the 2 things I've heard people say consistently. But again, it's easier said than done. Also.
Yeah, and when you talk about the Western Conference and a lot of the battles, obviously that number 1 seed battle is going to be huge. The Nuggets only up by a half game. A sleeper team certainly could be the Los Angeles Clippers. We talked about this a couple weeks ago, maybe up to a month ago on this show with you, but this is a team, they have struggled lately. They've lost 4 of the 6, and we've talked about it. It's so important to be playing your best basketball at this time of season. But the Los Angeles Clippers, 45-27. They went out beginning of the year. They got James Harden. Now you pair them with with the team that they have and with the playmakers that they have, with Russell Westbrook, Kawhi Leonard, Paul George. This is a very good basketball team and a team that has the star-studded power as long as they continue to gel together. Then you have the Pelicans at 5, Mavericks 6, Suns at 7. They're another sleeper team with Devin Booker. Never count the Phoenix Suns out, a team that was just a couple of years removed from the NBA Finals. The the Sacramento Kings, the Los Angeles Lakers right there, that 9 spot. And then you talk about the Warriors and the Rockets, kind of going back to our previous segment. And right now, those are your top 11 teams in the Western Conference. And we talk about you're starting to wind down to having just a couple weeks remaining in the regular season. A lot of these teams are down to their final 9 to 10 games in the regular season. This is where a lot of those teams, especially through the seeds, I'll go 7 through 11, they need to make it count because the play-ins are just right around the corner. And Matt, you were talking to us a little bit about the break that the Warriors and the Rockets, they have an upcoming matchup with each other. And it's going to be a very, very crucial and critical matchup to see if the Rockets can jump over Golden State and if they could overcome the Golden State Warriors and start to try to position themselves in for a possible play-in.
Yeah, I agree with all that, man. That's a great point. Just positioning, going and playing well. You know, the other thing we haven't talked about is health. Is everybody healthy? For the most part, the only team that's probably not 100% healthy, Timberwolves, because of Karl Anthony Towns, but they've had a lot of games without it. I'll tell you another super team, to be honest. It's the Pelicans playing well, and the Mavericks are playing exceptionally well. So, but I mean, those are the two sleeper teams that nobody really talking about. Pelicans, because Zion's playing well, but not to a point of like, okay, it's a sleeper team. But I think they got some pieces to cause a problem.
Yeah, there was one thing I remembered we talked about last time we talked NBA. It was mainly the East outside of the Celtics. We were talking about all the closeness between all the different teams when it came to teams that were not in play-in, the teams that were in the play-in. Obviously, right now you got the Pacers, Heat, and the 76ers. There's a game and a half between all three of them. But with not many games left in the season, that we might see movement there, we might not. But the West, when it comes to that closeness and that potential movement, you've got the Nuggets, Timberwolves, and Thunder all within a half a game of each other. Then you've got from the Clippers all the way down to the Kings. 2 of those teams aren't going to have first-round byes. They'd be in the play-in. So you've got 5 teams essentially fighting for 3 spots. Those 5 teams are separated by 3 games. Then, like you mentioned, Jackson, Golden State and Houston. Houston's out, Golden State's in. 1 game separates the 2 of them. And they both have fairly similar schedules when it comes to toughness. I wouldn't say who of the 2 has the tougher one because they both have pretty tough schedules. Both play Dallas twice, and then they play each other as well. So the West is definitely fitting into that scheme I was talking about when we last talked the NBA, how I'd love to see later down the line when it gets to right around playoff time, we see some close-knit matchups and we see some closeness between teams, whether they are going to have to play in the play-in, whether or not they make the playoffs. The East, they've kind of, I wouldn't say they've completely settled themselves out and they've kind of calmed things down because, like I said, you've got the Pacers, Heat, and the 76ers, a game and a half between the 3 of them. You might be able to throw the Magic in there because they're 2 games ahead of the Pacers, but those are essentially 1 to 2 teams fighting for the 5th and 6th seed. But then the West is just insane. Like I said, you've got 1, 2, and 3, Denver, Minnesota, OKC, all within a half a game of each other. Then you continue down the list, Clippers, Pelicans, Mavericks, Suns, Kings, all within 3 games of each other. 2 of those teams are going to have to play in the play-in. And then you've got Golden State and Houston. One of them is not going to make it. One of them is in, and they're separated by a game. And I completely left out the Lakers, who are only 2.5 games ahead of Golden State and only a game and a half behind Sacramento. So the West, they're doing exactly what I wanted to see when it comes to how close everything is going to get come playoff time. The East has kind of settled itself out because Brooklyn, they're 5.5 games back. They're the last team that has been eliminated in the East. But you get the feeling with about 9 to 10 games left to go, it's going to be insanely tough for Brooklyn to find themselves in that last playoff spot and that last play-in spot. So I think the East, it's more of where are these teams going to get placed. The West, there's still a lot up in the air right now.
And Matt, you bring up a great point talking about the East. And the East, obviously, you have every team. You have the Raptors, the Hornets, the Wizards, and the Pistons that are all eliminated. You still have the Nets that are still mathematically not eliminated, but 5.5 games back from the Hawks. Matt, I agree with you. You look at the East, and the East, it's certainly going to be, it's pretty much set in stone. Now, although it's not official, it's pretty much set in stone. It's just where are these teams going to place? A couple, obviously, the Boston Celtics have been the best team unanimously this season in all of NBA basketball, but you got the Bucks, you got the Knicks, then you got the Cleveland Cavaliers, who at one point heading into the All-Star break were the hottest team in the NBA, but it seems as if they've fallen off. You want to be playing your best basketball around this time of year. They're not. They're 3-7 in their last 10 games. Then you look at the Orlando Magic, 42-30, the Indiana Pacers, what great potential they have, but they just have never really been able to get going and go on that hot streak. They've been just middle of the pack all year long in the Eastern Conference. The Heat, never count them out. It always seems like the Heat, they're entering as a lower seed, and next thing you know, they're playing in the semifinals or the NBA Finals. 76ers, Bulls, Hawks. Not necessarily too much competition there. You may see some movement, especially between maybe the Knicks and the Cavs, the Magic and the Pacers, the Heat and the 76ers. Matt, to be honest, Matt, David, the biggest matchup that I'm watching for, and I'm trying to word this, okay? The biggest thing I'm looking at in the East, okay, is the placement in the East. And it's not from any of the top 10 teams. It's not from the top 11 teams. It's can the Detroit Pistons overtake the Washington Wizards so that they are not the worst team in the NBA this season? Because they're only separated by 2 games. And with how the Pistons started this season, they have a chance not to become the worst team in the NBA. To me, that's wild.
They get to play each other tomorrow, so that'll be interesting.
It's crazy, right?
Call it the toilet bowl, I guess.
Oh, no.
Yeah, but the NBA's done a great job of keeping stories alive. And I think that's something that's hard for baseball to do because they say there's so many games. But at the same time, I think they don't understand how to use great stories during the season. And I know I'm jumping to baseball. The one thing that baseball doesn't give us credit for is streaming wise, and their website and their apps are way ahead of the other big 3. You know, because soccer's included. It's easily manageable. Fantasy baseball's included. You know, like they're light years ahead as far as that goes. But as far as mass appeal, I don't think they're there anymore. But which I don't like because I'm a baseball guy at heart. But I think that's the one thing that if baseball really wanted to go to the next level, storylines. You know, have you heard it? But I mean, have y'all heard this new proposal though in baseball that they're going to instead of the designated hitter, you designate like say Ohtani gets 6 at bats, you know, or he can get in the bat in the 9th inning if you're down 1. Your best, you know what I mean? So those are things you're looking at doing a little bit. Wouldn't that be crazy?
That would be wild.
Yeah, that'd be weird. It'd
be a lot of getting used to. I'll have to do a little bit more research on that to kind of create opinions on that.
Right. Because baseball because people say, okay, if you can do that, how does it affect the lineup? If it goes extra innings, there's a lot of things that it would change. But in a way, it just be like playground baseball. You know, like you know, I'm a bet out of order this time. I'm up.
And David, I will say this real quick before we let you go. We know you're a busy man. You got to get on with your schedule. But David, I will say this, and this is a funny story, and Matt can vouch for it.
Oh no!
So you said that Major League Baseball, when it comes to any of the 3 sports, is the easiest to find and the easiest to watch. I spent the first hour of this show infuriated. I was getting angry because I was trying to find ways to watch the Reds game. I know Bally Sports tried a free trial and it wouldn't let me sign up, and then I tried MLB TV, and I just couldn't figure it out. And I know it's not I know it's not the sides. I know it's on me. I'm not technologically inclined, so I'll own up for that, and I will admit the mistakes there. But it was.
You didn't try Reddit? I mean, Reddit. They're streaming the games all the time. I hate to say it. I mean, like, it's kind of a known thing. Like, baseball actually embraces a little bit, where you can watch it on Reddit. Every now and then you can watch it on Twitter. But no, I think MLB streaming is one of the best ones. I know NBA streaming it has its bugs all the time. And even with my access, there's games that are blacked out. I have to wait after the game to get it. And I have full access. But what the NBA has done now, that they just basically, we won't, because in the NBA, you would get a TV feed and you would get a game feed. They had two cameras going. You know how we do a broadcast, Jackson and Matt, and we're up top and we got that get. That's what the old NBA scouts would get, and that's what you kind of want. But they felt like, well, it's just wasted film. We're just going to use the game feed. The problem with the game feed sometimes is if you're trying to scout, it's a game feed, so they'll show guys shooting free throws. They won't show a play, like they won't show the verbiage. They won't show hand signals. So you lose something. I'm kind of glad because that keeps me employed. So I have to be there to get those type of things. And playoff time is big, getting those little secret signals and calls. But no, I think MLB I stand by that. If I want to watch a Reds game, I can actually watch a Reds game. You know, it's pretty streamlined. I thought.
I think that I just need to stop being such a cheapskate and fork over some money.
So, he was getting pretty mad.
Again, it's on me. It's on me. I'm not blaming anybody else. It's definitely on me. And double tasking and trying to do that with the show, not a smart idea. So it's on me.
Well, we're going to start getting credentials to go to games so we can cover the game. And then, there's certain things with the games you actually can get. Like once you're, so we're building our brand. So when we build our brand, you ain't got to worry about that. You have access to
absolutely. That. I'm not blaming any site. I'm not blaming anyone. It's definitely on myself. It's definitely on me. But nonetheless, David Marshall, advanced NBA scout. David, thanks for taking time out of your busy day to join us here on the TKDS Sports Network and talk NBA basketball for about the last 35 minutes.
Yeah, it's cool. And Matt, you take care, man. Next time me and you got to talk.
Yeah.
Once again, that is David Marshall, advanced NBA scout and broadcaster for the TKDS Sports Network as well. Time for a break. We'll talk March Madness coming up next when we return.
Every day, we find ourselves on a path full of decisions.
It's me.
Sometimes small and sometimes big. Sometimes alone and sometimes together. At McAfee, everything we do is done with your comfort, health, and convenience in mind. She always wanted the best for you, and now you can rest knowing you've provided the best for her. Breathe easy. Choose McAfee.
We love serving families our real family recipes, made fresh with quality ingredients. And we love helping families find ways to stretch a buck. You see, we've always been about value, with coupons and money-saving offers, like the free pizzas you get with our buddy cards, making it easier for families to share a meal and a laugh. With flavors so good, the only thing left are the crumbs. And the memories. La Rosa's, the real family pizzeria.
Whenever you're feeling good and hungry, it's Skyline time. Gather together with friends and family. It's Skyline time.
Being Friday, everyone's looking forward to the weekend. Skyline's a good way to kind of kick that off.
You smell the chili, you hear the crowd, and they're having a good time. Skyline Mondays and Tuesdays and Wednesdays definitely happen as well.
We love it every time we go.
We love serving families our real family recipes.
I'm thrilled to be at Wittenberg at this time and place, as the university is perfectly positioned to welcome an esports program like none other. Wittenberg's impressive athletics tradition and Tiger Up spirit, mixed with a strong commitment to student success, will allow for a program that competes at the highest level while also caring deeply for each player, both personally and professionally. Esports at Wittenberg will not only be about gaming, but will also be about changing the game. Together, we will build a supportive, dynamic community as we bring our own distinct light to the global phenomenon of esports right here in Springfield, Ohio. It's time to Tiger Up. Let's go.
Every day, we find ourselves on a path full of decisions.
It's me.
Sometimes small and sometimes big. Sometimes alone and sometimes together. At McAfee, everything we do is done with your comfort, health, and convenience in mind. She always wanted the best for you, and now you can rest knowing you've provided the best for her. Breathe easy. Choose McAfee.
Jackson Lightcap alongside Matthew Pennington as we welcome you back here to the TKDS Sports Network. Cincinnati Reds, they are leading right now 7-0. Once again, leave your thoughts on the Reds games in the comments. They're leading right now 7-0. Frankie Montes has looked phenomenal on the bump for the Cincinnati Reds as well.
Yeah, 5 1/3 so far in the game. He's currently sitting on a 2-1 count, but no earned runs, no walks, 3 strikeouts, and only 4 hits in the game. Montas is having a great opening day for Cincinnati right now. And the lineup's doing pretty good hitting-wise. They've already got 8 hits, and they've got 7 runs. So they're looking pretty good. And Montas just made it a 2-2 count.
Matt, let's move on. Let's talk about with all the opening day festivities today for Major League Baseball. It's hard to forget that the Sweet 16 will start tonight. First game will be held right around 7 o'clock, and it will be that Clemson and Arizona game. So looking forward to that. But Matt, the Sweet 16, we're going to take the next 20 minutes or so, the final 20 minutes or so we have left in this show, and we're going to talk about the Sweet 16. And with the Sweet 16, we're going to go through the left side of the bracket first, and then we're going to go take a break. We're going to come back through the right side of the bracket. But first game we're going to be talking about UConn versus San Diego State. San Diego State, back-to-back wins, beating UAB, just edging them out by 4 in round 1. They beat Yale pretty handily, 85-57 in round number 2. UConn, 2 big wins. 91-52 win over Stetson, 75-58 win over Northwestern. UConn, San Diego State, 2 great teams. And if I'm not mistaken, these are 2 teams that played last season in the Final Four as well.
It's 2 really solid teams playing against each other. I think I already know. Well, obviously, pretty much everybody yesterday heard every single one of my picks that I'm going to have for the Sweet 16 because I can end up having all the picks be right on my bracket still. So UConn is my pick in this game. They have just looked like you read off those scores. That Northwestern game was a little bit closer than their first round game, but at the end of the day, you take a listen and you hear how that game went. That game wasn't even close. At the end of the day, the score might have been somewhat close, but UConn at the end of the day, that game was not that close. The score might have been 17 points, but UConn was dominating for a majority of that game. And now they've got San Diego State, who stumbled out of the gate a little bit and then played a Yale team that upset Auburn. So it made sense to me that San Diego State, with how good of a team and how well-rounded of a team they are, they were able to take down Yale the way they did. But they're facing off against a different animal in UConn. I've got UConn winning this game. I would like to say San Diego State has a very decent chance at winning this game, but if UConn keeps playing the way they've been playing, if they play the way they played against Northwestern, and if they play the way they played against Stetson, I don't think there's a world where San Diego State wins this game. That's not saying the Aztecs aren't a good team, but if we see UConn play the way they did against Stetson and Northwestern, they're moving on to the Elite Eight.
I think that this game is going to be closer than what people think. I think that this is going to be UConn's toughest challenge this season in March. But that doesn't mean I don't think UConn's going to destroy them. I think UConn's going to win this by 10 to 12 points. Yes, you're going to have a little bit of inflation from end-of-the-game free throws, but I think UConn's going to have a comfortable 10 8 to 12 point lead for the entire length of this game. I think that it'll grow more to maybe 15. I think San Diego State will be able to bring it down. But frankly, I just don't foresee a scenario where San Diego State ends up beating UConn, granted leading. I think they may lead out of the gates, maybe 2-0, 3-2, something along those lines. But outside of that, UConn has just looked dominant. And now I will go ahead and say this. There is something about being the most unanimously dominant team in the NCAA college basketball. Once you hit March, there's always that most dominant team. It's their year to win it, and they always come up short. And they always end up in the Sweet 16 against a 5 seed like San Diego State, or they go to the Elite 8 and they come up just short. I'm just getting different vibes this season from UConn. I don't think that this is necessarily the same. I don't think that you can use the same argument from what we've seen from those most dominant college basketball teams to UConn this season. Other teams in the past, they showed weaknesses, and they showed that they were beatable. UConn this season has very rarely showed that they've been beatable. They have very, very rarely looked like they could not live up to the challenge. And not to mention the fact that they won the national championship last season. Now, I understand that that doesn't necessarily mean anything, but when we talk about, oh, it's their year, this is the year that they're supposed to do it, they already had their year. Their year was last season, right? And they already got the championship that they wanted. This team playing right now, already, the majority of the players on that roster already has a championship ring on their finger. So this is just to go extra. This is to get more. A lot of the team, not to say that they're content, because no matter if they win this year, they're not going to be content. No matter if they win the next 5 years, they're not going to be content. And that's just how sports are. But UConn, we talk about in previous times past, the most dominant teams, unanimously dominant teams, where it's like, this is their year to win March Madness. It is this year or nothing. It just seems like they end early. And it's because they have all those expectations. Remember, this is a UConn team that played in the tournament last season with no expectations and ended up winning a national championship. They were a lower seed. They won the national championship. The players on this roster, they're pretty happy with that national championship. And so now entering this season, it relieves a little bit of the pressure. Yes, it's this season. Yes, their expectations are they're the number one team in college basketball. But I will go ahead and say this. With them winning it last year, a lot of those players, especially the starters, they have that championship ring. And again, they're not necessarily content with it, but there's no stress of this is my only chance of winning a national championship because they've already done that. So a lot of the pressure is off of these players, and they're just looking to go back-to-back, something that it's been a long time in the NCAA March Madness. I think UConn's a dominant team, and I think that they're going to keep rolling. I think they win by 10-12 tonight, or whenever they play San Diego State.
And yeah, the only thing I'll say, because you brought up the fact that it seems like every single team that has that this is their year, there's no way anybody's going to beat them, and then they end up falling short, and they have those moments during the regular season where they show signs of how they can get beat. I'll tell you what, Kentucky, when they were undefeated going into March Madness, they had nothing during the regular season that showed anybody that they're a beatable team. They didn't lose during the regular season. They lost to Wisconsin in the Final Four. You take a look at Gonzaga a few years ago. They were undefeated going into March Madness. Maybe you can say the West Coast Conference Championship game where it got a little close. Maybe you can say that was the sign that maybe this team can be beat. They lost to Baylor in the national championship. So to me, you say that this team seems different. This team seems different. Everybody says that every single year about every team that everybody talks about, is that they are the favorite. They are the team that should win it all. They are the most dominant team. So for me, obviously UConn won the national championship last year with not much expectations of winning the thing last year, but you also have to take a look at what craziness happened last year in March Madness. The amount of upsets, the amount of chaos we saw, the weird seeded teams we saw making it to the Final Four. So for me, I'm not saying UConn can't win a national title, but I don't think that it's going to be as easy as... I'm not saying that you think it's going to be the easiest thing in the world for them to do it, but the way you made it sound is you made it sound like this is going to be a cakewalk for UConn to win the national title this year.
No, it's never a cakewalk. It's never a cakewalk. I'm just trying to say that when you look at the Huskies and what they've been able to do, a lot of the teams with these expectations a lot of those players will feel like this is their only opportunity to win a ring. UConn already has. That relieves pressure in itself that a lot of these players, they've already won a ring. They know what it takes. And when you look back at the most dominant teams in college basketball, I'm not saying that UConn is 100% going to win it. I can never tell that. It's March Madness for a reason. With all I'm saying, UConn fans should probably be mad at me because I'm probably jinxing them for later when they play San Diego State. All I'm trying to say is that when you look back at the most dominant teams in the NCAA college basketball world, UConn, to me, just gives off a different persona. It gives off a different vibes. And I don't say that about I don't say that about anybody, but UConn, to me, I had them winning my bracket. So I think
that might be why you're saying what you're saying.
Good or bad? I don't know, but nonetheless, let's move on. A couple more games we want to get to, and we just touched base on that UConn and San Diego State game, Illinois, Iowa State. Matt, I think that game is going to be a terrific one as well. Illinois versus Iowa State. Iowa State from the Big 12. You have Illinois, your Big 10 championships. Iowa State, 2 big wins against South Dakota State, and then Washington State, and then Illinois. They destroyed Morehead State. They destroyed UConn. To me, Illinois, ever since they entered that Big 10 tournament, I think Illinois right now certainly looks like a team to beat and a force to be reckoned with. I think Illinois will take this one.
And yeah, of the 4 games that are going on today, I have Iowa State winning this one, but this is the game out of the 4 today I feel the least confident about me getting right. I have UConn, Arizona, North Carolina, Iowa State. Yes, it's all the 1s and 2 seeds, but you take a look at how these 1s and 2 seeds have been playing. They've been playing pretty good, but I truly do not feel confident about Iowa State winning against Illinois. And that's the main reason behind that is because Iowa State, they've struggled a little bit during March Madness so far. They started off a little bit slow against Washington State. Yes, they did end up winning by quite a decent margin for March Madness standards, but they stumbled out of the gate. If you stumble out of the gate against Illinois, bye-bye. Your season's done. You're not making it to the Elite Eight. So for me, I still think Iowa State can get this win. I still think that it is truly possible. I mean, you take a look at who Iowa State's beaten this year. To me, it is 100% within the realm of possibility that Iowa State ends up winning this game tonight. But with how Illinois has been playing, like I said, of the 4 games that are going on tonight, this is the one that I feel least confident in my bracket pick. Because like I said, I've got Iowa State winning this game tonight, and I don't think that's going to happen. I think Illinois is going to get this one done.
Matt, moving on, North Carolina and Alabama. Alabama, they've struggled at times this season, but they have playing their best basketball down the stretch, going up against a red-hot North Carolina team. Excited to watch that one. And then, of course, Clemson versus Arizona will be playing tonight as well. Thoughts on those 2 games? We got to get to a break here momentarily.
Well, I already told you I've got Arizona over Clemson. I had that being Arizona-Baylor as the matchup, but
I did as well.
Clemson ended up beating Baylor in the
Actually, beg your pardon, I had Arizona and New Mexico, and I had New Mexico winning that one.
I have Arizona winning that game, and then Alabama versus North Carolina. To me, this comes down to the Tar Heels defense. If that Tar Heels defense steps up, you're playing against the number 1 scoring team in the entire country in Alabama. If you cannot get your defense going, it's going to be a long, long, long night that you might not win the game in. So to me, for the Tar Heels, if you get the defense going, then I feel more confident in having picked you in this game. But if you end up getting that defense going against the number 1 offense in the entire nation for college basketball this season, I think they average over 90 points a game. If you can get that defense going, if you can get Armando Bacot getting a ton of boards offensively and defensively and forcing some Bama players to commit fouls like he's done so many times throughout last year, throughout this year, I think North Carolina's got a good shot at winning this game. If that is that going to happen? Is that guaranteed to happen? You have no clue because it's Alabama you're playing against. The Crimson Tide have been a roller coaster of a team this season. There were a few weeks where they weren't even in the top 25, and then they shot back up the rankings, and they had the best offense, like I said, in college basketball this year. So to me, I'm still going to stick with North Carolina. That's who I picked. That's who I have winning it all this year. So I'm going to go with the Tar Heels, and I think the 2 late games today, the Bama versus North Carolina game and the Illinois versus Iowa State game, I think those are going to be the 2 better games we're going to see tonight. Not saying the other 2 can't be good, but I think the Iowa State, Illinois, and Bama, North Carolina games are going to be a lot of fun to watch.
Time for a break. We'll be back on Sports Now.
Every day, we find ourselves on a path full of decisions.
It's me.
Sometimes small and sometimes big. Sometimes alone and sometimes together. At McAfee, everything we do is done with your comfort, health, and convenience in mind. She always wanted the best for you, and now you can rest knowing you've provided the best for her. Breathe easy. Choose McAfee.
We love serving families our real family recipes, made fresh with quality ingredients. And we love helping families find ways to stretch a buck. You see, we've always been about value, with coupons and money-saving offers, like the free pizzas you get with our buddy cards, making it easier for families to share a meal and a laugh. With flavors so good, the only thing left are the crumbs and the memories. La Rosa's, the real family pizzeria.
Whenever you're feeling good and hungry, it's Skyline time. Gather together with friends and family. It's Skyline time.
Being Friday, everyone's looking forward to the weekend. Skyline's a good way to kind of kick that off.
You smell the chili, you hear the crowd, and they're having a good time. Skyline Mondays and Tuesdays and Wednesdays definitely happen as well.
We love it every time we go.
I'm thrilled to be at Wittenberg at this time and place, as the university is perfectly positioned to welcome an esports program like none other. Wittenberg's impressive athletics tradition and Tiger-Up spirit, mixed with a strong commitment to student success, will allow for a program that competes at the highest level while also caring deeply for each player, both personally and professionally. Esports at Wittenberg will not only be about gaming, but will also be about changing the game. Together, we will build a supportive, dynamic community as we bring our own distinct light to the global phenomenon of esports right here in Springfield, Ohio. It's time to Tiger Up. Let's go.
Every day, we find ourselves on a path full of decisions.
It's me.
Sometimes small and sometimes big. Sometimes alone and sometimes together. At McAfee, everything we do is done with your comfort, health, and convenience in mind. She always wanted the best for you, and now you can rest knowing you've provided the best for her. Breathe easy. Choose McAfee.
Just a couple minutes left in our show. Frankie Montes' day on the mound is done for the Cincinnati Reds. 6 innings pitched, 4 hits allowed, no earned runs with 4 strikeouts. What a terrific day for Frankie Montes. The Cincinnati Reds lead in the top of the 7-0, and Emilio Pagan has taken over on the mound for Cincinnati. Excuse me, that just came out of nowhere. I beg your pardon for that. That came out of nowhere. Very unprofessional of me. I am very sorry.
Jump scared you.
That came out of nowhere. I just talked and there it was. Matt, we only have a couple more minutes. Let's move on. The Sweet 16 on the right side of the bracket. Houston, Duke. We talked a little bit about that game yesterday. Houston looking like a different animal, but Duke playing their best basketball. NC State versus Marquette. Marquette, we've seen them struggle, at least in that game against Colorado. NC State, they've been playing really well. Can they continue on? You have Purdue and Gonzaga. This game could be one of the best games that we possibly see. And then Creighton versus Tennessee. That is all the games on the right side of the bracket. Matt, your thoughts on those games?
Well, this is where the craziness in my bracket comes to fruition. The games going on today is literally 1-2, 1-2. That's who I have winning, the 1 seeds and the 2 seeds. Tomorrow, I have NC State beating Marquette, so an 11 seed. I have Purdue beating Gonzaga. That's where that's where the 1s and 2s and the best seeded teams being picked goes back into account. Then I've got Duke and Creighton winning over Tennessee and Houston. But yeah, I'm taking a look at these games. To me, NC State, I'm wondering how good this team is going to be rested because they had played a ton of games in a short span of time. They did win every single one of those games. But to win the ACC tournament and then go around and play March Madness games immediately after and win both of those games, it's just a question of how good is this team going to look well rested. Because if they can play good and they look good well rested, Marquette's going to have a tough game. Gonzaga Purdue, that should be a phenomenal game. I want to see Edey do well again. Duke Houston should be another great game. Creighton Tennessee, you've got a great defense in Tennessee going against a great offense in Creighton. So that'll also be a fun one as well.
Well, alongside Matthew Pennington and our producer, Kevin Fowler, I'm Jackson Lightcap. Thanks for joining us here on the TKDS Sports Network for Sports Now. We're live tomorrow, our first Friday show ever, 4 to 6 p.m. We'll talk Cincinnati Reds baseball. We'll recap opening day. We also will be playing a recorded interview. I was able to sit down with TV voice of the Cincinnati Reds, John Sadek, yesterday. That'll be coming up at 5 tomorrow. But once again, thanks for dealing with us on this Thursday. We'll talk to you in about 22 hours. Go Reds, by the way.